start by calling the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Good evening. We'll move to item 2.1 with roll call, and all board members are present. Item 2.2, if there are any conflicts of interest, now would be the time to report. Item 2.3, we'll seek a motion to review and approve the agenda.
Yes, I do need to add a 6.2.4, consider stipend requests under personnel.
Is there a motion to approve with the addition?
Mr. President, I move we approve the agenda with the addition.
Okay, we have a motion by Moulton.
I'll second.
Second by Iverson. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That amendment to the agenda is approved. Item 2.4, we'll seek a motion to approve the minutes from the May 12th meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Lohr.
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Item 2.5, we'll turn it to Heidi for the financial reports.
Thank you. In the month of May, the general fund revenue significantly exceeded expenditures, which is typical for this time of year, due to the receipt of the first major portion of 2024 taxes payable in 2025. The ending cash position reported at $10.1 million at month end. Capital outlay saw a boost in May from property tax revenue, which came in above expenditures. One notable item was a budgeted $1.2 million transfer to the general fund operation. As expected, the fund balance is lower than last year due to the ongoing use of funds from the capital outlay certificate for the construction of the athletic complex. Special ed revenue received a major portion of local tax revenue and state aid this month. The cash balance in this fund is holding steady at just over $4 million. Revenue slightly exceeded expenditures for May in K-12 nutrition. A price increase for school meals in the 25-26 school year is expected. We're also actively working with families on negative balances. At year end, these totaled just over $3,600. Thanks to the generous donors, the district was able to apply over $7,300 to qualifying accounts, with $13,700 in total donations received this year. Lake Area Technical College had a strong month, receiving multiple revenue streams related to the summer semester, including $2.9 million in state revenue. Revenues exceeded expenditures, and the ending cash balance now sits at $10.9 million at month end. LATC Enterprise Fund operations continue to hold steady and remain at levels to support their operations. While premium income was less than claims and administrative costs in the Employee Benefit Trust for the month of May, the fund still maintains a healthy cash position. We planned for a premium increase beginning in September to ensure continued stability. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
You should thank the donors who contribute to nutrition accounts. It's really generous and nice.
Yes, a very special thank you to them.
Yes.
Okay, we'll turn to 2.6, student staff recognition.
I do have one athlete here tonight, and Malia Kranz. Are we a two-time state champ now? Yep. In the AA girls discus. So yes. Congratulations to Malia. And she is also all conference track. So.
Shake your hand again.
Of course.
Well done. Thanks for
And now you have to.
Yeah, congratulations.
I got to pose.
You got to pose right there, Malia.
Mr. Feininger is not going to let you go until he gets you.
We had a little advanced knowledge. We had Malia coming, so the rest of our spring athletes will have to be probably in July. But she was very notable for her winning the state discus. So
Awfully
we got her in
impressive.
time. So congratulations. Thanks for coming.
Well done. 3.1, if there's anyone here from the public to speak on agenda or non-agenda items on behalf of Lake Area. All right, then we will turn to 3.2 and welcome President Sanderson for a summer enrollment update.
You bet. Thank you. I have more good news to share in terms of what's happening this summer at the college. We started the summer term on May 27th, Tuesday after Memorial Day, so we're inching up on midterm already for the semester. Summer term goes through the 22nd of July. Most of our students that are on campus this summer are engaged in clinical experiences, internships, general education. Though if you walk through campus, you'll see some students in class or in lab around campus. So our final count for summer term this year was 653 students. That's our unduplicated count. That's up 4% from this time last year. And if you look across the entire academic year of 24-25 that we just finished, we set a new high water mark for the college at 2,761 students served throughout the course of the whole year. That is up almost 4%, 3.9% from our last high that was in 2022-23. So it has taken tremendous amount of work by our faculty and our staff members to support students in that level of success, and just want to share publicly my thanks to everybody who had a hand in making that happen. Sometimes it's fun to step back and just see where we've been over the course of time. So this marks the 10th year that the dual credit program has been around, and 10 years is generally a good window of opportunity to look at what we've accomplished. Lake Area Tech hit 2,198 students in the 2015-16 school year. So if you look over these last 10 academic years, that means that we've grown as a college 26% in that amount of time. And just want to say thank you to the community of Watertown and the industry partners in this area, the businesses that employ our students and serve our students, for all of the ways that they make our college happen here in town. And again, a huge thanks to our faculty and staff for the work that they have done. So some really good things happening. Our largest enrollments this summer are in practical nursing, the dual credit program, agriculture, business, registered nursing, and dental assisting. So give you a little snapshot of what's happening around campus. On the academic side, of course, we've got corporate education happening throughout the summer months. This week, the State Fire School will be on campus, so we anticipate about 500 firefighters from across the state coming to campus and renewing certifications and learning new skills while they're with us. So appreciate the time, Mr. President, to share a little bit about the summer session. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to personnel 4.1.1. Let's start with the resignations.
Very good. I'll direct everyone to the blue sheets with today's updates. And first with resignations, we have 2 resignations for your consideration. And you also have a blue sheet with an updated resignation letter. The resignation letter that was in the board packet initially had a June end date, and we worked with that employee. She'll be with us through the end of July, and so that's the resignation letter you see in blue. But with that update, I recommend your approval as presented.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Rossman.
Second.
Second by Lohr. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Item 4.1.2, the contract recommendations and addendums.
Thank you. Before you, you'll see a variety of contracts that help us get staffed up for next year, and part-time and adjunct instructor and corporate education instructor contracts to serve our needs over the course of this summer. I'd recommend your approval as those are presented.
Is there a motion to approve as recommended?
Motion to approve the contract recommendations and addendums.
We've got a motion by Lohr.
Second.
A second by Rossman. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Item 4.1.3, the stipends.
Thank you. We have 3 faculty members who are working in advanced degrees and are requesting reimbursement for the stipends that they are eligible for. And I recommend your approval as those are presented.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Rossman.
Second.
Second by Lohr. Any questions, comments on the stipends? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. 4.2.1, authority to purchase the video management system.
Thank you. The item before you is a request for authority to purchase the video management system from Johnson Controls at a cost of $93,018.64. And this will allow us to put security cameras into the archway portion of campus. I
Sure.
should mention that this would be paid for out of our budgeted funds within the IT department.
Is there a motion to approve item 4.2.1?
I move that we approve the authority to purchase a video management system as presented.
Got a motion by Moulton,
I'll second.
and a second by Iverson. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. 4.2.2, the authority to purchase the endoscopy equipment.
Thank you. Recommend your approval to accept the sole qualifying bid from Stryker to purchase 3 endoscopy systems, the most updated model 1788, for a total cost of $524,590. This will finish out the Surgical Technology Learning Center. The funds for this purchase come from the gift that Sanford Health provided to our surgical technology program and from remaining funds that we received for equipment from the state of South Dakota. If you're not familiar with endoscopy, this is the lights and the cameras to minimize invasive surgery, and so this is a great opportunity for our students to have that skill set going out into operatory environments. Stand by for questions.
Is there a motion to approve the endoscopy equipment?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second.
Second by Moulton. Any questions or comments?
Sounds like fabulous equipment to have.
Yeah.
Did you say that it was similar to some other
Yeah,
facilities
so
or organizations
this
that are using it?
particular model that we're recommending approval for is the model that's used at Prairie Lakes Healthcare Systems
right.
here. And so
Okay.
our understanding is that the cameras that plug in can be interchanged, and so that gives us an opportunity to partner with industry in a new way.
Nice. That's great.
They'll love that as they graduate and already familiar with the
Yeah.
equipment.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We'll now consider the hangar lease agreements.
Thank you. Before you are 2 lease agreements with the Watertown Regional Airport for T hangars. This is where we store our planes for the professional fixed wing pilot program. The rate would be $240 per month coming out of the professional pilot program budget. Recommend your approval as those are presented.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the hangar lease agreements as explained.
Okay. We've got a motion by Moulton,
I'll second.
second by Iverson. Any questions or comments?
That seems like a pretty low lease. Are we getting a pretty good deal on that?
The city of Watertown's been fantastic
Okay.
to us. They're small hangars. These are the small
Yeah.
planes that you often see circling around
Sure.
town. But yeah, really do
Okay.
appreciate the city of Watertown and their
Fantastic.
support.
Great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. And lastly, 4.2.5, consider the surplus resolution.
If you'll give us leniency, we've got 2 items for you, but we'll start with the lease
Apologize.
agreements, if that's okay. The first is the lease
yes.
agreements. These are no-cost and low-cost leases for our heavy equipment operator and our diesel programs. First, on the low cost, it would be a lease agreement with Transource for a wheel loader for 7 months at $1,000 per month. And then the second piece is a no-cost lease for a compact utility tractor with John Deere Kibble at no cost for that lease. And as we've shared in the past, thank you to Transource, thank you to Kibble Equipment for their support. They are sharing equipment that's $150,000 in value, and it will cost our program $7,000 in total. Great opportunity for our students.
Well, thank goodness we didn't skip over that one. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion by Iverson.
Second.
Second by Moulton. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. All right, now we're to the surplus resolution.
Very good. In your packet, you'll find a resolution that surpluses for disposal equipment from aviation, med-fire rescue, precision machining, and welding. This is all equipment that is beyond its useful life, and through the equipment grants we've received over the last couple of years, we've been able to provide updated equipment for our students in those programs.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the surplus resolution.
We've got a motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Iverson. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move to item 5.1. If there's anyone here from the public to speak on agenda or non-agenda items. Doesn't appear to be the case. 5.2, Northeast Tech High School report update.
Yes, just a reminder for the those board members on the Northeast Tech Board. We have our budget hearing at 5:30 at Northeast Tech on, oh boy, that's next Wednesday, so that is the 18th. And then regular meeting at 5:45.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Danielson with the strategic plan update.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Barrios. Go right to the next one. Okay, so I just want to start, kind of introduce the strategic plan. Just a reminder that in the spring of 2024, so really I would call it second semester of the 23-24 school year, we underwent a process to adopt a new strategic plan. We generally adopt a 3-year plan. So this one runs from the 24-25 school year and then covers the 25-26, 26-27. And we had hired VRM Consulting to help us facilitate that. Some of you may know the name Rick Melmer and remember that he was the one who kind of led us through that process. We had district administrators, building level administrators, other admin, we had certified and classified staff, and then we had parent and community representatives to help formulate this plan. We came up with 5 goal areas that we'll outline, and what I'm going to share tonight are kind of the highlights from each of those areas of what we accomplished during the 24-25 school year. So a big thank you to my district ad team for their work in heading up each of the goal areas. I'll kind of highlight them as we go through. The link to the plan is on the website, so if anybody would like to see the strategic plan itself, you can find that on the Watertown website under the district. The district area off the website. So if you want to click to the first one, so our first goal area was the school safety and community goal. And Mr. Barrios was kind of the goal area, what do we call them, cheerleaders? No, goal area, what were they, Dr. Baum?
Champions.
Goal champions. Goal champions, that's right. We had, Mr. Barrios was the goal champion from the school safety and community. So a big piece of that, we have considered ourselves a Boys Town district, and Boys Town is a kind of a process for teaching social skills throughout the district, so that we have norms with our language and how we handle certain discipline situations. So I'll use the word rejuvenated our Boys Town skills with our staff, and we are continuing that into the next school year. When our administrators report for duty again in August, we're going to have training with the Boys Town folks themselves at the district. And then MANT training used to be called CPI training, but that is essentially training on different holds or ways when students have become de-escalation strategies. Thank you. I knew I was being whispered out in the audience, but I couldn't read lips quite well enough to get it. De-escalation strategies within when we have students who are getting a little bit dysregulated and maybe need some assistance. And so that MANT training is done for staff so that we have MANT trained staff members to respond in certain situations. Another highlight was the staff years of service recognition. This is relatively new, but a highlight this year, our BISCO board agreed to provide chamber bucks for all of our award winners. So it was a small token for the years of service, but you got 5 chamber bucks for 5 years, 10 chamber bucks for 10 years, and up into, we even had a 40-year staff member. So that was pretty cool, and we did that at the same time that we selected our certified and classified staff members of the year. We just hosted our district retirement celebration. That has shifted to an open house format. It used to be called the staff tea, and that was a closed ceremony that we held with only district staff allowed to participate, and we have now opened it up, third year? For an open house where we have our retirees recognized and anybody from the public can join us. And so that is growing on people, including the retirees, as a recognition technique as Many of them do not wish to actually get up in front of a group, but they will greet people and converse with the public when they come in. Two big things regarding safety. One of them is our district-wide school safety program protocols that have been updated. We went from maybe more of a very prescriptive, certain situation type listing to a very simple one-page handout. Staff were trained on that, parents were informed of this, and it really comes down to 5 words: hold, secure, lockdown, evacuate, and shelter. We have those posted in every classroom. So it's a very simple reaction if there would be something that happens in the district. And then the reunification process, we did do, we called it a tabletop exercise with our administrative team and the Watertown PD. We did that at the end of May. And the reunification refers to if by chance we would ever have to evacuate a building, the reunification plan is how we would then reunify children with their parents. And so that the logistics of that are not necessarily public, but that would help for us as an ad team to understand how that would look, and then to be able to kind of initiate that plan if we ever needed to, and the instructions would then be passed along in communications to families. But the idea of reunifying in a coordinated manner is so that if an incident happened at a school, your reunification would not necessarily take place right at the school to avoid the traffic and the things that would go with that. So we had other response there. Anything you want to add on that, Mr. Barros?
No, I think that covers the main.
That's kind of the highlights from the school safety. And I can take questions after each category, or we can wait till the end, however you prefer, Mr. President.
I'm good with whatever, but I've got a question or a comment actually on this one. On the staff recognition piece, something that came to my mind to consider would be, how about a sub of the year? We know that we've got challenges with staffing, so why not recognize those that are loyal to the district, with willing to pick up the call and come in at a moment's notice? Something to consider.
Okay.
Good idea. Or
I think
recognition for all of them.
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in a later tab, but
Good idea.
we've had some other ideas too on how to modify like the classified certified piece too, so that's also another good suggestion, so thank you. Okay, let's move to facility planning and fiscal health. Ms. Clausen was the goals champion for facility planning and fiscal health. It's hard to have this as a highlight, I just want you to know, but the operational efficiency piece is a highlight, but we did reduce 10 full-time FTEs for the 25-26 school year. And I guess maybe the highlight is we were able to do that through attrition. So when people left voluntarily, not necessarily through the use of having to do reduction in force or something like that. So in order to get to kind of our operational efficiency targets, we did reduce 10 full-time positions. Roosevelt, once we made the decision to close Roosevelt Elementary during the 23-24, one of our, a big goal during the 24-25 school year was to figure out what we would do with Roosevelt Elementary. That was confirmed in March of 2025 when the district sold Roosevelt to the Watertown Catholic School Corporation. So that was a kind of a big rock there to kind of move and figure out how we were going to do that. I mean rock in the metaphorical sense too, by the way, not necessarily literal. Also the Watertown Stadium, that was another piece. So when we finished our fall playoff season, that really ended the era at the current Watertown Stadium. And a big piece of our goal this year was to figure out what we were going to do with that. We established a 3-year stadium use agreement with the city of Watertown, so that is still the home of Watertown baseball. In fact, we are hosting the State Legion tournament later this year, or later this summer, and so that has taken place. We have moved our needed items out of there, and they are being relocated either to storage for now, or will be at some point over in the new stadium. That I would make an editorial comment and on the new stadium at this point. That's not necessarily one of our highlights, but just a reminder that the actual completion date for that is mid-July, and we are right on track for that to be opened in the fall in time for football. You're starting to see green as the grass has been planted over there, so that will be the practice field. I've had questions if that was going to be a parking lot, but that is actually going to be a practice football field that will be on the west side. Anything else you wanted to say about that particular item, Ms. Clausen?
Nope, we're right on track for our July 12th completion date. And just a reminder to the public, the athletic complex itself was done in 2 phases. So the first phase was really more for that track purpose and the turf, and then phase 2, which is the project we are in, which is noted for a July 12th completion date. That was the grandstands, the restrooms and concessions, the field house, the practice field, and the scoreboard. So just a reminder, there was 2 separate projects within that athletic complex in entirety. So
Thank you.
And we're within budget.
Correct.
yes. Yep. And a reminder on that phasing as well, we were able to do a $15 million project and only have to use $5 million in certificates. So that's pretty significant accomplishment with the school board in terms of any debt that we were having to put on the books by the way we were able to phase that project.
The next highlight, elementary upgrades. So through the use of our 5-year strategic plan, or the creation and use of our 5-year strategic plan, we are looking at upgrades at our elementary schools following the reorganization. And so one of the big pieces of that is air conditioning at the 4 elementary schools. 2 of them, McKinley and Millette, are already underway this summer of 25, and then Jefferson and Lincoln are noted in the 5-year capital outlay plan for completion in the summer of 2026. And Millette's gym is also being updated, and another piece within that kind of is the We Are All Arrows campaign. Each of the elementary gyms will now have they got a paint job for sure, and then a large mural with the We Are All Arrows theme in there. So we're liking the way those are turning out. We have 2 of them done. Jefferson and McKinley are already done, with Lincoln and Millette to be finished yet this summer. So that will be a new look at those 2 schools when they come back in the fall. And then our final highlight is that fiscal health. We've been able to maintain our fund balances at 15% in alignment with board policy and best practices. But we will have to continue to study and just evaluate revenue projections, the enrollment projections, all of that, to make sure that we can remain financially solvent and it's sustainable, but while keeping the quality of education to what we expect in Watertown. So if Ms. Clausen has anything else to add there about this area?
I think you covered it.
Okay. Other questions on the... The third area is marketing, communication, and outreach. A big thanks to Jen Bender, who has been helping us in a consulting role establish a lot of our communication practices and marketing. The district. So a big highlight there. I was actually the goals champion here, but that's why I need to give a big shout out to Jen Bender for her help championing my role in this. Big piece of that, we established content creator positions, and those were 1 per building, someone at each building, essentially to get the word out on social media about the good news, the good things happening at each of our buildings. And I would say we had a very good start to that, with a little bit of refinement needed in certain areas and a continued evaluation of what gets put out, when, the timeliness of it, and then also evaluating the different social media platforms to see if we're reaching the audience we wanted to reach. But it has given each building a voice for reaching families and the public. I do appreciate, we've got a couple members of the local press here. We've had good relationships with them. Thanks to Brandon and Steve for your dedication, but we've been able to work and utilize the content we are putting out to help them generate news stories, and that was kind of the point. Was it wasn't always having to be like a press release coming from the district office to have our local media be able to pick up the good news happening and then get that out, because your audience is even wider than ours, so we do appreciate that. Dr. D's Pizza Party. Smash hit. I expect an Emmy coming at some point on this one. But what that was actually the superintendent interviewing different staff members, and we looked for kind of a catch with that, and what it was local pizza spots. And so when I would interview a different staff member each month, we would share a piece of pizza at the end, and that was kind of the hook at the end. But besides having to watch me every month, I have gotten good response on the staff members, and so we won't run out of staff members, so we want to do that again next year. It's been kind of funny, the different people who have picked that up, not even necessarily local residents, but people who have razzed me about it, and so I do know that has gotten out there and it's getting views, so I would say that's been a highlight. Monthly communication calendars were created by Jen Bender, and those were distributed to our administrators just to help them each month kind of set what communication should be going out, and then we leave it up to the administrators to funnel it to the classroom level if there are announcements there, whether it's parent-teacher conference information, something like that. This was also a big rock, and I mean that again metaphorically, Mr. Boyens, not literally, but a common calendar for the district. It's kind of been one of those things, in my 8 years, I've had people ask if that's possible, and I do believe it's possible. So far, our activities department, our high school office have been the main ones utilizing this, but the idea would be is we have one centralized calendar online, and each of the buildings contribute to it so that our parents can find it in one spot, or maybe it's grandparents, or maybe it's members of the public. But we're excited about that using Bound, which is our activity scheduling software. And so thank you, Mr. Boyens, and Joan has been the other one that's really been working on that. So we're excited about that. I do think that has been something that's been asked for quite some time, and we're hoping that we are delivering on that. And then evaluating our just the current communication practices and the means of it. We do have a changeover in our technology director position, so that will fall on Mr. Cruz next year. So just a new set of eyes on the website, and maybe some of those things that are housed on the website, what that could be. That is an ongoing, but that is probably a big piece that will roll into next year. So take any questions you might have.
Sure. This spring, I think there was a survey to parents and staff,
Yes.
all buildings.
Yes.
And was the board privy to those surveys?
So far it's been for internal communication, but when we get them tallied up and can get some information to the board on certain things. Our response rate, I was going to talk about that in the next one on
Sure.
Under student support and success, but
Sure.
Some of our return rates were not great, so it's hard to tell if the data is maybe a little skewed in certain ways.
Be interesting to see if any of those responses would help tweak any of this. Just a
We
thought.
do intend to evaluate that internally as we look at that, but for the highlights here, we did not
Okay.
plug that data in.
For that common calendar, did you say the next step would be for all the buildings
Yes.
to start rolling?
And I think our
their
plan is
stuff into
before
it?
school.
Okay. Principals in like who's gonna do or designated different?
Well,
people per
at
building?
the I would say for sure at the K-6,
Yeah.
it's pretty limited what would probably
Yeah.
be in there. It'd be your music concerts, maybe a
Yeah,
PTO
that's
event
true.
or something like that. So probably will be a one-time.
I'll put them in.
Oh, lucky
Yeah. So
you.
if they send me their, they're gonna send me their dates. and I'll
Gotcha.
put them on there.
Okay.
But like Dr. D is saying, that'll be limited.
At the
Yeah.
K-6, it won't be.
Not as much,
It's not
yeah.
going to be down to the classroom level
No,
for
but the
that. We
building.
would still count. So it
Yeah,
would be
it'd be
more
big for the
building
building.
level
Okay.
things. But the idea, I think, it's possible where if I have students at 3 different, I can check each of the schools and then generate one calendar that I could look at that has only the schools that
Yep.
my children go to.
Okay. Nice.
And you can subscribe and add them to your phone.
Fancy.
Put them in there for you.
All right. Good to know.
Nice.
And it updates, correct,
Yes,
too? Like if there's a
automatically.
change in
Change,
an activity
change.
time or a change of the date?
Yep, you get notification right away.
Okay.
Thanks, Bound. Bound. Okay, our next area is student support and success. Dr. Ballinger was our goals champion in this area. So some notable highlights. We analyzed the RTI data at all levels to help identify students and then try and use that data to match the students to the appropriate interventions or placement and services. As Ms. Moulton asked about the student survey, a student, parent, and staff survey were sent out. I will own the date that it was sent out. It was the last week of school, so that probably didn't help our return rates, and that's lesson learned there. We had been doing one, and then last school year, so in the spring of '24, because of all the surveying we had done with the elementary schools, we did not send one out, more so because we had been asking quite a bit of our parents to fill out in the way of surveys. But we intend to do this yearly and then use that to help us analyze our the strategic plan or any other feedback we might get out of that.
I would just make a quick comment on the return rates, that it's not probably totally surprising to see low return rates, and it just seems like naturally people are only going to comment on really extraordinary experiences or really bad experiences. So how do you capture the in-between piece? So if there's a way to incentivize with a $25 gift card type deal, or just something minimal for a random 10 people that do the survey, I don't know. But feel like we should try to do something to get a higher return rate so that the data is more meaningful.
Yeah, and it's probably possible. The hard part would be is we try and make sure they are anonymous and known to be anonymous, but I know there's got to be a way to separate, if you want to enter your name, it's separate from the survey and tied together, because that has been what we have said, is it's anonymous. So.
Or in parent-teacher conference nights, if you had just a short paper questionnaire, really short, fill it out, drop it in the box. Just a thought.
We did something on iPads at conferences. What was that survey?
That was not.
Not this year.
Was that the elementary thing? Were you thinking of?
Yeah, but I thought it had, I don't know. But that worked because you had a captive audience.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, skewed because it's going to be the parents who actually are coming to the conferences. So you may or may not get a good response rate that way as well. So I don't know. The more we can get it out, the better.
Yeah, and the last week of school probably isn't the right week.
I admitted I even missed it.
Yeah,
so
it's
sorry.
should have been done the first week in May, and that's on me. So, but the intention was there. The social studies curriculum, we are preparing for adoption or implementation, of the new social studies curriculum here, happening in the fall of 2025. As you walked in, you maybe saw some of the materials. Those are elementary, and there's some right over there by Steve, but those are some of those, the materials for the fall of 2025 provided by the state, as that is kind of the curriculum, correct? It's that newspaper format, so. Course offerings at the high school, we added 3 different courses, a multimedia class, which we're excited about. That will help us tie in with those students who help with the Aero TV. A South Dakota Native American Studies class, which is part of the Social Studies curriculum adoption. And then this one really, for the profession itself, a dual credit partnership with Mount Marty, offering students more opportunities to explore careers in education so that they can get 8 dual credits through coursework here and at Northeast Tech. And also that would be available for any of the schools that go to Northeast Tech, that they would have that same opportunity. But we're excited about it. That kind of came together through work with Mount Marty. So, and then our data sessions to focus on our student achievement, we do those in the fall, and we look at not only our standardized test scores, but NWA MAPS testing that we do, and to try and formulate target areas of need.
Okay. I got a couple things to add. If you get a chance to look at those social studies materials, they're excellent. They're colorful, well presented. They're really nicely done, thanks to the state. I mentioned to you that there's a great bookstore in this state that offers a huge selection of Native American materials. So hopefully we can go send librarians, teachers that are going to be teaching those courses out there and purchase great materials. And it's adult, K-12, it's everything. There's great lesson plans in some of those booklets out there too. There's maps, there's all kinds of multimedia stuff. Couple of the education directors at the tribes have put together great courses on the Native American course. They'd be good people to contact. As far as the social studies curriculum, there's a great deal of writing in there. And it would be great if we would pair with the English language arts. There's quite a bit of writing asked for, from essays to paragraphs and so on. And that's all levels. And finally, you know I'm still bugging you about this. World geography, world history, college prep. I am really sorry to see what's happening to that as far as it's being downgraded. Not good. Particularly when those students go off to college and compete with students who've had superior courses at other schools in the state. So that's my comments on that.
I think we feel like we've adapted and are putting forward the best opportunities for our students at this point.
I will say there's great interest in the Native American course. There's
Yes,
190
yes.
kids
It's going to be a great course.
So it's,
Mhm.
I'm excited. for
That curriculum's written a little bit differently than other curriculums. It's got some great ideas. Yep, for the 7 tribes.
Okay, our last goal area is the staff support and success. Thanks to Mrs. Walker for being our goals champion on that one. We had 28 mentor pairs successfully complete the district-run mentoring program. There was over 45 hours of training and support for our new teachers. We're not exactly sure what will happen. We have been tied into the state program, and funding for that is reduced, and we're a little nervous to be gone. So that has been a good program. To me, it's something that has set us apart in terms of our support for our new staff, because we have committed to that even prior to partnering with the state program. So how do we keep doing that, and what do we need to do to keep that going further if the support is no longer there from the state? We did host a substitute appreciation event in December, and then we have included our substitutes in our in-service and training opportunities throughout the year. So those are both new opportunities for our substitutes, and we'll have to continue to kind of get that word out amongst our substitutes and figure out maybe the best way to let them know so they can be there. and participate if they choose to. This was tied in also in the safety area, but refocused on Boys Town. We hosted our district-wide health fair on April 25th, and a big highlight there, we had over 60 community partners who hosted sessions. And then lastly, the focus on grading practices with Myron Dueck as our pre-service speaker. That was the work that he did with our staff was then revisited and utilized throughout the year at the building levels. We actually have a second page of staff support and success. An emphasis on the mathematical practices. We will be in year 2. This was the first year of adoption of math. So we focused on those mathematical practices. The social studies courses were reviewed. I mentioned adopting the new standards and the South Dakota Native American Studies course. We continue to support our English language learners. We train staff in SIOP strategies. At the 712, they had monthly focus on these strategies, and we've expanded our sheltered course offerings at WHS. So a sheltered course would be a course that hosts only students who have English as a second language. So we have English 9 and Algebra 1, and we are adding that English 10 in geometry. And then finally, these are our curriculum adoptions for next school year. Summer work will emphasize math in year 2, social studies year 1, and then we are working on our English language arts for a fall 2026 adoption.
I have a suggestion. This came from the staff. They would really like, particularly in the elementary level, they would like the grade level meetings to be held during in-service time so that we do not have to hire subs, which would save money. Teachers do not like having to leave their classrooms and just another day that they have to do extra paperwork, and it abandons the students, so to speak. But if grade level meetings could be held on the days of in-service, certainly save hiring subs.
Yeah, the hard part there is getting everybody who needs to be working with them there at the same time. So you'd have to do it almost one per early dismissal. We don't have enough early dismissals. Because you've got the same people facilitating the grade level meetings. Does that make,
Yeah. So a teacher couldn't facilitate?
Possibly.
I think they could.
Might take some front loading for that person.
Huh?
But yeah, we can look at if that's possible or not.
We used to meet as a group of teachers and handled just fine.
Okay, and then I have a final slide here. Class sizes have been a discussion pretty much, we discussed them very heavily through the elementary transition. We've had discussions about class sizes. I've actually heard it come up through the school board election questions I've gotten on that, and so I just thought, here's an opportunity to kind of point out some things. And so for the public, we do have a board policy, IIB, that sets class sizes. These are class size goals for grades K-3 and grades 4-6. Grades 7 through 12 are set keeping the course and student needs in mind, but generally in grades K-3, our goal is 23 or below, and we have been able to maintain that through the reorganization. And then grades 4 through 6, 26 and below. And then in grades 7 through 12, our ideal goal is 30 or below. And so those are many times easier to do at the K-8 level than at the high school, where you have individual student registrations. So I thought I would pull, and thanks to Mrs. McClemens and Ms. Full in the high school office, I pulled the numbers, just to kind of give the public and the board an idea of our course sizes. So these would be the first block, so right here, those are ranges, and then I went specific above 25, and then I've got it over 30. So those courses that are below, or 10 or below, we have 17 different sections. This is 24, 25 stats that are below 10. In the range of 11 to 15, we had 52 sections at WHS. In the range of 16 to 20, we had 83 sections. And then in that range of 21 to 25, we had 111. And then as we got a little bit bigger, I went individual. So we had 17 classes that were at 26. We had 31 classes that were at 27. We had 36 classes that were at 28. We had 15 classes that were at 29, and we did have 12 classes that were at 30. And then we did have 21 sections that were over 30, and those fell into 3 areas. They were either our music classes, so you have a large group chorus or band or orchestra. They were in our customized Aero Academy rooms, or it was a study hall. So the idea that a regular class in Watertown High School is over capacity would be false. As per our guidelines. If we would, at some point there's a discussion about looking at the guidelines, that would be a different story. But these are what we have generally tried to have in place, and that's what we've gotten done. The other piece I wanted to point out on this slide, and it pertains to a little bit on staffing, and just to point out that, help me out, former Secretary Sanderson, if you remember this too, or anybody else, but I believe the dual credit program was formalized in the fall of 2015.
That's correct.
And so from that point on, that has changed much of the course loads for students and staff at the high schools in South Dakota because of the prevalence of dual credits. And so we teach in-house 6 courses that are eligible for dual credits. Our students take 92 other dual credit courses. Last year we had 251 take at least one class, and this slide, the number of dual credit courses would be 730. So that does change the makeup of what our students are taking in high school, and in fact, it probably changes the makeup of what Lake Area is offering and what students their staff are teaching, and that's been a 10-year phenomenon, really, because prior to that, it would have only been the courses that we taught ourselves or ones that we had specifically articulated. And prior to the dual credit program, I can speak from personal experience, it was very difficult to get an articulation agreement on a dual credit course. That was prior to my time in Watertown, but speaking as the superintendent of other districts, it was difficult to get those articulated with the Board of Regents schools in particular, and so there just weren't as many. And so the dual credit programming has definitely changed the makeup of our high school course schedules, and it changes, and even the ones we can offer is based off of staff qualifications. And so we would like to find more staff members to offer local dual credit instead of them having to go online so that they can be taught by, but it is somewhat dependent on the qualifications of our staff. And so I'll just end this slide with just a little bit of editorializing. I've had the pleasure to serve in 8 years, And I just want to, like, as we wind down and look at how we did this year, I just want to remind the board, the audience, and the community what a great school we have in Watertown. I think at times that gets overshadowed by different debates and different comments or a focus on very minute issues out in the public at times. But we have fantastic staff members. Our students just, I mean, one of my favorite times of the month is when we get to bring them up here and recognize them, but there are many others who could be up here too. And then I am grateful for the support from our families and our community. It is overwhelming to be on the different boards that I am on and see the way our community gives to our school, our students, and both sides of this street. That's a beautiful thing too. And then I get to interact with the lake area side too. And I don't want that to be missed with what I'll call sometimes negative marketing directed at the Watertown schools, and many times those sources come from people who are trying to get our students to go somewhere else. And so we need to be grateful for the school system we have, the people we have in it, both the paid ones, and then I'll call the students volunteers, but those kids we have, and then the community that supports us. So I'll end on that and still take any questions or comments.
A couple of points. My numbers differ greatly from yours, and I actually pulled mine for class sizes and how many. This is the principal's Excel spreadsheet, so I pulled numbers from that. This is the high school registration. It also has notation from one of the administrators on it with numbers. I went through that again. So, based on looking at those two documents, there are in fact 46 to 47 classes at size 30. And on the principal's Excel sheet here, 28 classes at size 29. Most of those classes are in fact for students. It's at, here's a good example. Physical science, 30, 33, 30, 30. Those impact freshmen and sophomores. Biology, 29, 30, 30, 30, 30, and so on. These are classes that impact freshmen. That's also true in algebra. It's also true in personal finance. Those classes are at 30. English 10, English 9, there's classes at 30 and 29. These are the classes where students need the most help. It also applies to Spanish. Spanish is hugely overcrowded. 30, 29, 30, 30, 30, 30. Spanish 2 as well. We started out the year with only 2 Spanish teachers. We used to have 4.5. Social studies classes, huge as well, particularly U.S. government, U.S. history, world geography. These are classes where students struggle. You've got several different kinds of learning in those classes, so I still think we have some work to do. Right now we have a current absentee rate at the high school of 32%. I can't think that students who are packed into large classes welcome coming to school when those classes are large and they're not getting the attention they need. And there's some internal things, you know, there's some internal fixes that we could do to actually alleviate this. But basically it boils down to a shortage of teachers. Mr. President, I have a further question. So this document states that 30 would be okay for a high school class, whereas the board established policy is currently for IIB sets class sizes for K through 6. So to establish class size, wouldn't that have to be a board procedure? There's precedence that it's in policy, and wouldn't this have to be a board approved action to set any class sizes? So I have a question. If it shouldn't be a procedure and a policy and a discussion in the future. Soon, I would hope.
I think 25 to 30 is a pretty normed high school class size.
It depends on the kind of learners you've got in many of these classes. You've got second language learners, you've got students in IEPs, individual education programs, students that struggle. So when you pack a big class, you're stretching the teachers so thin, it almost becomes triage. Who do I help first?
And all those learners exist at the lower grades as well.
Yeah, but up here they're packed in even more closely. I think you increase discipline issues as well.
Mrs. McClemmons, would you like to say something?
Yep. So what I would like to just point out too when we're doing scheduling, we're constantly, like the numbers you got were from the very beginning of the year. So we're constantly evolving and working on balancing of classes throughout the school year. So it's not a build your master schedule and then we're just done, we're gonna leave it. When we notice problem areas, kids shift, there are schedule changes that happen if a student needs to recover. Perhaps they've recovered in our credit recovery, so they no longer have to be in a physical science. So there's a lot of movements that take place that do impact the overall number in classes. We had kids that that fit the mold for our alternative school that went to our alternative school. They had about 24 kids, 24, 25 that kind of evolved in and out. As students completed their coursework or graduated, another student that opened up another student, which also impacts the overall class sizes. And so that's how some of those class sizes could come down over time. Perhaps something comes open, because we don't have Northeast Tech numbers in here. And I think those are included in your numbers. So when those classes become available, because Mr. Follick opens up after the school year opens, he'll say you have an extra 20 slots. So we have a running list, and any kids that signed up and didn't get in the first time, they get called in, and then their schedule can change to go into that. So then that starts to reduce class numbers too. So I would just like to say that the class numbers are ever evolving and ever changing, and it's not just a set number 3 weeks in the school year, that it's constantly changing. And so
was this a snapshot from like how we wrapped up the year? I guess
This
I
is
should have asked that to clarify
at the end of
when
the
you shared
year,
this with us.
when we went back and looked at all the class sizes for the whole year, this is what it ended up.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. There's more than 17. We did not take into account special ed classes because students with special needs obviously are already in a small group. If they're in a learning center class, we would naturally teach those students in a very small setting with that small group. And so that would not be in there. Northeast Tech classes would not be in there. They often will run 30. They'll sometimes take overages too, based on if we need those needs. So it's kind of a fluid, the class sizes is a fluid. When we ended up finding a Spanish teacher mid-year, that obviously offset some of those classes, and we had kind of a waiting list for that. So that assisted with those numbers as well.
So it's less than 10% of classes that are over 30.
Yep. Is where we ended.
I guess the policy that exists is for the K-6 level, is that correct? Does anyone have any recollection of why there is, I mean, if that's what Ms. Knowlton is potentially looking at, like if we're considering in the future adding that as a policy or capping those upper level classes, perhaps there's a reason, like I want to weigh the pros and cons if we do look at that in the future, just because I also think then you're going to end up in situations as well. I'm all for not having massive class sizes, but you're also gonna have to stick to your policy then and turn kids away if there's full classes that, you know, you wanna squeeze 1 or 2 or 3 more kids into, or it also, I imagine, matters sometimes when you're working their schedules out for graduation purposes or early graduation purposes,
Yeah.
that ends up tipping classes over a 30 cap.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of extenuating circumstances, I
There
have to
is.
believe that would create that situation.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to see all sides of that too, cause yeah, I don't
Yeah.
love seeing that, but.
If we have
we're
a
gonna-
student that needs to repair or
Yeah.
recoup a course, we schedule it so it's not forgotten.
Sure.
But if they end up in credit recovery and they pass it, that's when it comes out of their schedule.
Mhm.
So those start getting pulled out of there as well.
Sure.
So those are ways that they might seem initially
Mhm.
high, and then they come down off of there as well. So, I feel pretty good about where those numbers ended up falling. I know I've talked to, like, the ESD principals get together each year, and when we talk class numbers, I know that there are ESD schools or schools our size that have some class sizes over 30. And, you know, it's due to staffing because they have no choice. And so they have classes of 32, 34, and we've not had to go to that, so.
It'll never be perfect.
It's never, and it is a balancing act.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's kind of trying to figure out how to get everything the students want in the schedule, and you know, it is a balancing act. And I will tell you, we put a lot of time into trying to assure that we can put them in the best position that we can. And you know, with our co-teaching English classes, there's 2 teachers in there. There's a SPED teacher and a general ed teacher. So, you know, there's extra support in some of those classes as well.
One thing that would help internally, we only have one alt ed teacher for Girl Success, right? And we used to have 6 for that program for students at risk. Right now we're pulling out core teachers, science, math, English, social studies to go over to that program, when those teachers could be teaching a class. If we actually added 1 or 2 more teachers to alt ed, it would also help pull out what we have in there, 20 students.
Well, if we serviced more than that, because
But,
there
yep.
were some that just they had to finish
Right.
up. And then we were good about if somebody finished up on a Thursday and we held a graduation,
Mhm.
I would say that next week we had somebody ready to go, because we had like our priority list and families were ready, so we got people in pretty quickly.
So there's a waiting list, so we could handle more in that program.
Yeah, but there's also a size limit. That building's only so big too,
Right,
so you wanna
right.
make sure it's conducive to.
I understand that,
Yeah.
and there's some talk of actually moving it to another larger facility. So that would actually, if we added some teachers there, that would free up those core teachers to actually stay and teach courses over here. Another thing, because of students at the beginning of the school year, well, my buddy over here is in this class, so I want to join that class also. Do we have some kind of regulation or standard? If a student wants to change classes, do they have their parent sign? Do they have the outgoing teacher sign? Do they have the ingoing teacher sign? Do they have a counselor and a principal sign? So it puts some responsibility on the student, and it makes the outgoing and the ingoing teacher aware and part of the change as well.
So there's a form that they are supposed to take to the teacher to have them sign. They're
But
supposed
how
to
many
have a
people,
reason.
how many people are required to sign it would be my question.
Well, there's a principal, a counselor, and not always a parent in the first 3 days.
So parent wouldn't necessarily know.
No, but they're supposed to typically make phone calls between the counselor and the student when they're in the
Okay.
office, so.
I heard that there was a huge number of students that changed classes.
There was at the beginning of the year, but we
Yeah.
put things into place
Which
as
made,
far as that
obviously,
goes.
these numbers pretty fluid.
Mhm. Well,
And
some of them, yeah.
would make it hard for you to schedule, I
It
would
does.
think.
Yep. So when we went into the registration this year, we talked specifically about that, as far as making sure you're signing up for what you want,
Mhm.
because there'll be very limited schedule changes in
Yep.
regards, because it's hard to make a schedule if we're having
I know
that many
scheduling is hard. I
Yeah.
know that.
Yep. but we're always looking for ways to make it better too, so.
Particularly the huge numbers that some of these core teachers ended up with teaching for the entire day, 130 students, 170 students. That's,
And some of that was moving Algebra 1
yep.
to skinny,
Skinnies,
which
yep.
we had to have opposite of, which I think moving that math to every day was a good thing for the freshmen.
Well, yeah, it was, but it created some uneven scheduling, obviously.
But I will say we circled back to those teachers that were teaching those skinnies that had, basically it doubles their students, and they would not go back to having the block for that math or the.
Well, I know in
social studies.
skinnies you can actually move farther ahead in curriculum than you can regular block class. You can actually move faster and deeper
Yeah.
into a subject.
But
You
I
actually
intentionally
get more
talked
done.
to them about that to make sure that wasn't a burden as far as the number of students, and they preferred it actually, so. To get their feedback, yep.
Okay.
I think there's some points we could all continue to talk about.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, you're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Are there any other comments on the strategic plan?
I just appreciate the opportunity to reflect on successes in a year, because I echo what you were indicating outwardly, that it sometimes gets lost, the positive things do in the all the chatter outside of the good things that the district is doing. So even for myself as a board member and as a parent, it's good to see this in writing and see what strides we're making.
That's fun to reflect back on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to extend thanks to the people who worked on that committee.
Absolutely.
People coming in and giving up their time and putting together a good plan, I think.
Yeah. I would say I caught more of the, I wrote down what Stuart said about recognizing the subs. I liked that. And then another call to action, I think, is just people to be continuing to come up with creative solutions to combat that sub shortage, because that is something that's in our plan in several areas, but I think that's topic of conversation often. And I was really proud to just meet this past year 2 stay-at-home moms who stepped up and took the call to be subs this year, and I just thanked them thoroughly, because that's just awesome. Like, they didn't have to do that, and I'm sure there are 2 of plenty that are doing that, but there's always room for more. So appreciate anybody who's willing to take that call and continue to welcome more daily.
I have just one comment to make. So if I heard you correctly, Dr. Jameson, we're in the first year of 3 with our strategic plan.
Correct.
Is that right? One thing that is not in the strategic plan that I would encourage the future board to consider is something geared towards AI. We need to champion on that. It's here. It wasn't, I mean, it was here, but it wasn't like really here. Like, I feel like it is now when we first drafted this plan. And I feel like we're probably going to be really far behind our peers if we don't add that to the plan in some capacity, whether it's staff support and success or student support and success, marketing. There are just lots of low-hanging fruit that we could be capitalizing on right now, and feel as though the board should add that to amend the strategic plan and include it in some way, shape, or form.
Duly noted.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the update and all the successes that came with it. First reading of policies, 5.4.1.
Okay, GCCAA just clarified some language on holidays over at Lake Area.
Okay, no action here. So
Correct, these are all first readings, and then the next 4, we put them in alphabetical order, but I'll talk about 5.4.2 and 5.4.5 together, only because the main piece of this, all 4 of these are per legislation, and the main piece of IJL-A and KEC is to make sure that the public understands that in a complaint procedure on either library materials or instructional materials, a board decision could ultimately be challenged in circuit court. That was part of the legislation this past year, and so we needed to add that to our policy. That's the main updates on IJL-A and KEC. And then in JEA and JEG, JEA is an update to the compulsory attendance ages, and then the big change is in JEG, which is a new policy, because the date for school attendance has been updated from 18 to 16 with the caveats outlined in this policy. And then also, there is a religious exemption after 8th grade that fits our Hutterite colony. And so with Sunrise Colony, part of our district, making sure it's outlined that that would be upheld. So those are all first readings. 4 of them are per legislation.
Okay. Any comments there from the board? Hearing none, we'll move to 6.1 with seeking a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Got a motion by Laura,
Second.
second by Rossman. Questions, comments on the bills? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We'll turn it to personnel. 6.2.1, we'll start with the retirements.
One retirement for your approval, Jamie Schock. Thank you to her for all of her years of service with the Watertown School District, and she is retiring from the school district this year.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion by Rossman,
Second.
and a second by Lohr. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's approved. 6.2.2, the resignations.
Resignations there submitted for your approval, and we recommend your approval on those.
Okay, we've got motion, or excuse me, is there a motion to
I'll
approve the
make a motion
resignations?
to approve the resignations.
Got the motion by Laura and a second by Rossman. Any questions, comments on the resignations? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resignations are approved. Item 6.2.3, the contract recommendations and addendums.
Several new hires in here for teaching positions, new teacher, academy stuff, curriculum, grade level days, all sorts of trainings out throughout the summer here. Scroll through those and just recommend your approval for those.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion by Rossman,
Second.
a second by Laura. Any questions or comments?
Just how are we sitting with vacancies and openings that we do have?
2 right now,
Okay.
but we did really well this spring in filling a lot of our positions, so I feel like we're in a good spot, but still have a couple to fill.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
We have the 6.2.4 on the
Yes,
stipends.
stipends.
One stipend reimbursement request as presented there.
Is there a motion to approve that stipend?
So moved.
Motion by Laura,
Second.
second by Rossman. Questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Turning over to property, 6.3.1 with the authorization of the notice of appointment for the school board election.
Yes, action is needed for the appointment of the school board election workers for the election to be held on June 17th.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second.
Second by Moulton. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. 6.3.2, the consideration of the financial institution operating agreement.
Yes, the district recommends approving the operating agreement, which outlines the terms of the banking relationship with First Premier, including the designation of authorized signers.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the financial institution operating agreement.
Motion by Moulton.
Second.
And a second by Iverson. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. 6.3.3, consider procurement plan for the child nutrition program.
The procurement plan is in place for the district to procure items for the use in the child nutrition program, and it is a requirement under the federal program. The amendment includes updates to purchase thresholds as well as additions to vendors under the purchase procurement table. It is recommended to approve the procurement plan as described.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson,
Second.
second by Moulton. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Item 6.3.4, consider the surplus resolution.
Yes, it is recommended to approve the surplus resolution declaring equipment items surplus for donation, disposal, and sale. Within that resolution, we have some stadium stools that we will be donating to Aero Education, and they'll use those through the harvest. I don't know if Dr. Danielson has anything to add on that.
Well, so between the Booster Club and Aero Ed, we want to donate them, and then they can come up with a fundraising plan to utilize with them. They have a commitment towards the funding of the new stadium, so they can use that donation to help them put the money towards their agreed upon amount for the new stadium. So should look for something from them soon.
Perfect. Also, some of the food service items on there, we're recommending, we will reach out to different community people to see if they're interested in any of those items, and if they're not, we would be disposing of them. But we'll see if any of those items are worth donating to local churches and community services.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the surplus resolution as explained.
We've got a motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Iverson. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. 6.4, we'll hear from Heidi on the consideration of the supplemental budget.
Yes, the proposed supplemental budget provides modifications to the 24-25 budget to accommodate the increased expenditure allocations and offsets through identified revenue supports. The budget modifications total $3.2 million, bringing the budget operation to $134 million. The modifications relate to the allocations to support government accounting standards and the requirements of reporting activity maintained in our custodial accounts, as well as pension-related accounting standards to support non-cash expenditures in support of SDRS pension-related liabilities. Revenue sources are noted to align state aid and tax offsets, interest received from investments, and LATC course fees, rentals, and other state grants. In the Employee Benefit Trust, it is noted to increase $1.5 million in claim expenditures to account for estimated claims to be reported at fiscal year end. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Heidi. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second.
Second by Moulton. Any questions, comments?
This is pretty standard for this time of year, isn't it?
Yes, a lot of these entries are just to update our financials for the audit. So those governmental accounting standards, that just reports all of our custodial fund activity as well as the SDRS liabilities. And then it cleans up anything related to the fiscal year to wrap up the month of June.
Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Item 6.5, the approval of special education comprehensive plan.
Yes, this plan is submitted yearly by our Special Services Director, Dr. Bollinger, and is pretty perfunctory in nature, but if you have questions on that, she would be happy to answer them.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the special education comprehensive plan.
Motion by Lohr.
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions, comments? That should be directed to Dr. Bollinger. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Item 6.6, consider memorandum of understanding with the City of Watertown for the school resource officer.
Yes, we do this annually too to keep in place our MOU. These are for our school resource officers. We have 2 resource officers in our district. And to note, this is with the City of Watertown because the 2 officers are Watertown Police Department employees, and then we reimburse 50% of the cost of these 2 officers, and then help provide any school resource officer specific training or help pay for that. That's the big thing. And the 2 are located, one at the high school, one at the middle school, who is really the K-8 resource officer.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion by Rossman.
Second.
Second by Lohr. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. 6.7, consider the runoff election ballot.
Yes, we voted last month on the first round of this. We had 2 secondary principals involved in a runoff because nobody got 50% of the vote the first time. We voted for Ryan Rollinger the first time around. I'm recommending that we vote for Ryan Rollinger, Harrisburg, this time.
Is there a motion to cast the ballot for Ryan?
So moved.
Motion by Lohr.
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Item 6.8.1.
I do not have updates to any of these. So the superintendent job description, I do not have a change in that one.
Okay.
Recommend for approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the CBC superintendent job description.
We've got
Second.
Motion by Lohr, second by Rossman. Any questions, comments?
Editorial correction, the Roman numerals are incorrectly numerated.
Oops.
Yeah,
Oh, those are
instructional
du-
leadership could be Roman numeral 5.
It
And
duplicates itself.
symbolic leadership should be Roman numeral 6, if I'm reading that correctly.
Thank you.
And a couple interesting points in here, actually. It's a 3-pager. Goes on.
I see that.
Got it?
Yep, I see which one you're talking about.
Duties and tasks of the superintendent, Roman numeral number 1, district leadership, leads by example, assumes responsibility for the leadership of the district's educational program. I thought that was nice. Put that number 1 because it dovetails exactly, and I went to the Associated School Board's website to look at duties for board members. And ours dovetails very nicely with that. Setting clear expectations. The most effective boards understand that learning is job 1. Using their policy making and appropriations authority, boards consider and evaluate how the district's actions are contributing to student learning, the core work of schools. That's Associated School Boards. Goes on further. Set clear expectations. Get clear about the greatest student learning needs, the most important content area to improve first. Focus on student learning and teaching. Improving teaching is a key strategy for improving learning. I think I asked you at the April budget meeting if the board actually votes on curriculum. You said, no, we just pay the bills. But some past board members did reach out to me and said there used to be joint board and teacher curriculum committees that worked through all the curriculum together as a joint project as each curriculum cycle came up. So that was past precedence by board members and teachers. But would be nice to have that again. So that's all I noticed.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I think you had one already.
Oh, just kidding. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we already have
I got
motion.
you.
Oh,
I got lost.
all those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Whew.
That motion is approved.
Forgot we
Item
did that.
6.8.2, evaluation of the superintendent.
No changes from this one.
Mr. President, along with Dr. Danielson's approval, I move that we add a sentence at the bottom. The board will further receive a semi-annual update on district issues at the June meeting.
Is there a motion to accept the
Revision?
amendment to the second reading of this policy, or leave as is, I guess? Is there a motion to accept Jean's amendment?
So moved.
Can you restate that again?
Sure. The board will further receive a semi-annual update on district issues at the June meeting. Does that wording sound okay?
We have a motion by Iverson.
Second. Well, I made the motion in mine. You
I think
seconded.
second by Laura. Okay. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm saying nay only because of, I guess I feel like that's part of a personnel piece when we speak in executive session. But I'm 1-5, so.
And I'm making sure I assume it was like what I
Yeah,
just did.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, like
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly what happened today.
Yeah, district issues, so I'm taking it as
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
correct?
okay.
one.
Sorry, the vote's already done, so I
Yep.
shouldn't talk.
Basically, a midterm update.
Heidi, is there a way to, I guess, amend that vote with further clarification?
You want to amend, so we have a
Well,
first and a
if-
second,
if-
and then she's voting no.
I'm just voting no.
So we have one
Okay.
vote no, and so it's passed?
Yep.
Is-
Okay, all right,
So we have 4 votes yes, 1 no, is that correct?
correct. 6.8.3, line and staff relations.
No changes from first to second.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
We got a motion by Laura. Is there a
Second.
Second by Moulton. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. School building administration.
Again, no updates from last month.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson,
Second.
second by Laura. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Vacations, 12-month administration.
No changes from first to second.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Rossman,
Second.
second by Laura. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. 6.8.6, the benefits and leave from work administrators and directors.
Same thing, no changes.
Is there a motion to approve?
So I'll second.
Motion by Laura, second by Iverson. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Open enrollments. Is there a motion to approve?
We have 6 of them. There's an additional one from the original packet, so.
Another family wanting to be a part of this great district.
That's
huh?
right, that's right.
Okay, good.
I'll make a
See?
motion to approve the open enrollments.
Yeah.
Second.
Awesome. We've got a motion by Laura, second by Rossman. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
No 13, 20,
10s. Dr. Danielson, turn it over to you.
Yes, reminder, it's been mentioned, I believe, but we do have a board candidate forum tomorrow night. That's June 10th, 5:30 p.m. at the GOS. So it'll be school board at 5:30. We have 4 candidates, and then city council to follow at 6:30, or approximately 6:30. Is there 3 wards this year that have?
I think so.
Does that sound right?
And then there's an at-large.
Okay. So, school board first at 5:30, followed by city council. Both those are at the GOS. And then it was already mentioned, the election, June 17th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That voting is here at the Civic Arena. Early voting, I gotta make sure I get this right on Wednesday, Steve. Early voting is at City Hall. So that is open right now, and that goes through the 16th. But early voting is at City Hall.
You can see the new city hall.
That's a new
Good time to
building.
check it out. Yes, at the
Yeah.
new City Hall in the old
I
Wells
think it's on
Fargo
the
building.
Maple entrance on Maple Street.
And then, just because it's the next thing up from a board perspective, a reminder that our board budget hearing is at 5 p.m. on July 14th, followed by the regular July board meeting at 5:30.
Perfect. All right, 7.2, if there are any reports to the superintendent, now would be the time. And item number 8, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Iverson,
Second.
second by Moulton. Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.